Okay, have you ever stopped to think about how just one number can basically hold the keys to your entire financial life? Well, today, that's exactly what we're digging into, the credit score. We're going to break down what it is, how it's calculated, and, this is the big one, why it has such a massive impact on your wallet. All right, let's dive in. So the source material we're deconstructing today starts with this really powerful hook. It calls the credit score a secret, which, let's be honest, totally hits home, right? It taps into that feeling that a lot of us have, this sense that there's some mysterious, invisible number out there calling the shots. But here's the thing. It doesn't have to be a secret, and today, we're going to pull back that curtain.
All right, so how do we start to unravel this whole mystery? Well, it all kicks off with a really simple, but honestly a really powerful analogy.
See, instead of just throwing a bunch of confusing financial jargon at you, the source does something really smart. It compares it to something we all get, a school report card. And it's an instant connection, right? We all know what a report card is, what a grade means. It immediately makes this abstract number feel way more familiar, and frankly, a whole lot less scary.
Okay, so if your credit score is the final grade, then the logical next question is, what's on the test? What actually goes into calculating that number? Let's break it down. First things first, let's just get a straight-up definition on the table. This score isn't just some random number they pull out of thin air. Nope, it's a direct reflection of your financial habits over time. You can really think of it as the summary of your financial story up to this point.
And here it is, the breakdown of that grade. And this visual makes one thing absolutely crystal clear. Look at that huge slice for payment history. That is by far the biggest piece of the pie. It means that simply paying your bills on time, every single time, is the #1 most important thing you can do. The next biggest piece? That's your credit utilization. Now that sounds fancy, but it's just the percentage of your available credit that you're actually using. Lenders really want to see that you're only using a small chunk of it. The sweet spot is generally under 30%. Now the other factors, like how long you've had your accounts, they matter too, but they just don't carry anywhere near the same weight.
But look, knowing what goes into the score is really only half the battle. The real power, the real aha moment, comes when you understand what this score actually does out there in the real world. This is where that number goes from being abstract to hitting you right in the wallet.
And here is the single biggest reason you should be paying attention. We're not talking about saving a few bucks here and there on your coffee. A good score can literally save you thousands upon thousands of dollars over your lifetime, mostly on interest payments. The stakes? Yeah, they're incredibly high.
And then, boom. Just like that, an abstract idea becomes totally real. When you see a number like this, over $7,500, it's no longer just some vague concept of saving money. It becomes a tangible, concrete financial goal. That's real money that could be sitting in your pocket instead of going to a bank or a lender.
And get this, its influence stretches way, way beyond just borrowing money for a loan. This one little number can actually affect some of the biggest milestones in your life. We're talking about the car you drive, the apartment you're trying to rent, and believe it or not, in some places and for some jobs, it can even affect whether you get hired. Its power is so much more widespread than most people even realize.
Okay, so we've definitely established the stakes are high, right? So now let's pivot. Let's shift from just understanding the problem to actually finding the solution. Here is your actionable playbook for taking back control of that number.
And the advice is laid out as a super simple 3-step playbook. And what's great is that each step ties directly back to those big factors we just looked at. So, number 1, pay your bills on time. Why? Because that's the biggest piece of the pie. Simple as that. Number 2, keep your credit card balances low. That directly tackles your credit utilization. And number 3, try not to open a whole bunch of new accounts all at once. That helps keep the average age of your credit history looking nice and long. See, it all connects.
Now this next part is super smart because it gets ahead of some really common mistakes people make. Let's bust 2 huge myths right now. First off, checking your own score will not, I repeat, will not hurt it. So go ahead, check it as often as you like. And second, and this one is a big one, so listen up, closing an old credit card, which sounds like a good idea, can actually lower your score. Why? Because it can shorten your credit history and it can make your credit utilization percentage shoot up. Just knowing these 2 things can save you from accidentally shooting yourself in the foot.
So everything we've talked about up to this point has been purely educational, right? Just giving you the facts. But to really understand the whole picture, we need to look at the final part of our source material. This is where the focus makes a really interesting pivot from information to action.
And this question right here, this is the pivot point. It's a classic call to action. It's designed to take you from just sitting there listening to becoming an active participant in your own financial life.
This is the bridge that connects knowing the information to actually using it.
And this is where the underlying strategy really comes into focus. You see, the whole educational part of the content has been building up your knowledge and, just as importantly, your trust. And that trust is then leveraged to introduce you to a commercial offer or tool.
Now, the source material is actually pretty upfront about how it makes money. It's through things like courses or affiliate links. And once you see that, you can see the entire structure, the whole formula, laid bare. It's simple. First, identify a common problem. Second, educate the audience on why it's so important. Third, give them a free, basic solution. And finally, offer a more in-depth paid solution. It's a classic model.
And so, the source material leaves its audience with this final, really empowering question. It puts the ball back in your court. It shifts the responsibility over to you. Because the real takeaway from all of this today isn't just the nuts and bolts of how a credit score works. It's the fact that now you have the knowledge. You have the power to manage it. You understand the rules of the game. So the only question left is, how are you going to play?